I'm very glad that everybody could make it here, both virtually as well as online. First off, I want to, on behalf of Simon Fraser University, I respectfully acknowledge the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Katsi, Kwikwetlem, Kwatak, Kwate, Semiahmoo, and Sawean peoples on whose unceded traditional territories our three campuses reside. So we're very grateful for that generosity, acknowledging the history. Again, thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, we do have, this event's going to be recorded. So yes, we know, got it. See, Kelly had it recorded, so we're good to go. And we will post the recordings at some point, probably in a week or two. The workshop has an interesting history, and I just want to give you some context as to how this actually all came about. I arrived here roughly in January of this year, started a new faculty position, and also started a new Institute for Neuroscience. And part of my mandate as the inaugural director was to try and find ways to consolidate, if you will, or help facilitate interactions amongst the neuroscience community, not just at SFU, but actually across British Columbia and hopefully Western Canada at some point. So very early on, I was hosted at UBC by some of my colleagues. We went up there, I think it was actually in January. It was raining and it was cold. And we sat in a room among a bunch of the investigators and just talked about how to start linking up different activities. And, you know, we talked about having workshops, we talked about talking about collaborations and so on. We had a second workshop that Lynn hosted at BC Children's, which was also excellent. We got more interest, more people involved. And then finally, at the end of that meeting, we decided, you know what we should do? We should have a workshop that actually focuses on a topic that's relevant to all of us. And I think it was actually Todd Woodward who suggested something on brain dynamics, and hence the name of the workshop. And it just so happened that I was talking to my very good friend, Victor Yersa from Marseille, and just coincidentally happened to coordinate a visit that we managed to have coincide with this event. So I'm very happy that that's how it came together. You'll notice that the organization of the workshop is slightly different from what typically happens in the following sense. Most of the time that when you're at these kinds of meetings, what tends to happen is people like me or Victor will get up and we'll do, you know, our speech or our preach, if you will, preaching our sermon to you for an hour, and sometimes much more longer than an hour if we're feeling very chatty, and then disappear from here. That will happen sort of over the next 2 days, but the intention is to really foster discussion amongst the people here. So Victor will give the typical keynote, but we're going to have about hopefully 15 minutes for discussion if I shut up and let him start talking. We'll have two what are called didactic talks. It'll be given by Sam, who's in the back there, and myself. And these talks are meant just to give you the idea of the vocabulary of the information that we all use in talking about brain dynamics. So when we have these discussions that will flow in the subsequent presentations, you will be able to participate because you'll have at least some of the lingo in your head. You have a recency effect, if you will, for what's happening. And then we have what are called the ideas talks. And the ideas talks are modeled after a workshop that we've been putting together for over 20 years called the Brain Connectivity Workshop. And that workshop is focused on, not surprisingly, brain connectivity, but also the emphasis of that meeting has always been to facilitate a really deep discussion on the core concepts, on the core theories that are driving your interest in the brain. And so what'll happen for those ones, and I'm hoping that our chairs will be able to keep people on task, is that these idea talks, the presenters will present an idea within about 15 minutes, and then we'll have the remainder of the time, 30 minutes roughly, for open discussion. And that I want to be truly open so that everybody feels empowered, if you will, to participate in that discussion. Asking questions, you can ask each other questions as well. But really start getting at some of the details. We can't raise that easily to start scratching on the whiteboard, but at least the idea is to kind of get to that level of discussion where you're really talking about these core concepts. What is brain dynamics? What does it mean for consciousness? What does it mean for curing epilepsy? What does it mean for mental health issues? How do I actually study that? These are the issues that we're going to try and cover in the next 2 days, hopefully. So with that, I will now take the opportunity to introduce my good friend Victor Yersa from Marseille. Victor, his background is in theoretical physics, but he had a choice to make at some point in his life and decided to pursue neuroscience, and has done some seminal work in both modeling brain dynamics, but also taking it to the next level where you start integrating modeling efforts with empirical data. And through that sort of aspiration, he, along with myself and other partners, created what's called the virtual brain, which is a really unique platform because it is representing essentially what we're trying to do here is it's an intersection between the hardcore theory underlying brain dynamics, but also realizing the empirical aspects of that. Victor comes from Marseille. He's director of the Institute for Neuroscience. He's also recently been appointed, we'll give him his condolences as well as congratulations, the Chief Scientific Officer of the eBrains Initiative, the European Union, which means he might have to jump off on a call quickly. But otherwise, you know, he's a great friend. We've been working together a long time, and I'm delighted that he can make it. And I'm looking forward to his presentation. So Victor, please.